It's the stuff of legend, a unicorn among muscle cars, the holy grail of Pontiacs. The 1970 Pontiac GTO Ram Air 4 convertible wasn't just rare, it was nearly mythical. Built at the very edge of the muscle car era's peak, it combined brute power with top-down swagger in a package so scarce, so brutally fast, and so defiantly American that even seasoned collectors stop and stare when its name is mentioned. This isn't just a car, it's a war cry on wheels. Only 13 1970 GTO Judge Ram Air 4 convertibles were built with an automatic transmission. 13. That's not just rare, that's unicorn territory. It's the kind of number that stops conversations in collector circles. These weren't just muscle cars. They were the automotive equivalent of lightning in a bottle. But to understand why this car matters, why it turns heads, raises eyebrows, and makes grown men whisper, you have to go back. Hit the like button if you love cars as much as we do, and subscribe to join our gearhead community for more thrilling car content. It was 1964. Detroit was restless. Muscle was the new moneymaker, and Pontiac was ready to cash in. But here's the thing. The GTO wasn't supposed to happen. That's right. GM had a corporate ban on putting large displacement engines into intermediate-sized cars. But Pontiac's rebel engineers, led by John DeLorean, Bill Collins, and Russ Gee, had a different plan. They quietly slipped a 389 cubic inch V8 into the mid-size Tempest, slapped on some badging, and gave the world the very first muscle car, the Pontiac GTO. The name itself was borrowed from Ferrari's 250 GTO, Gran Turismo Omologato. But make no mistake, this was Detroit's machine. Brutish, loud, and built for the stoplight brawl. The 1964 GTO was a gamble. Pontiac figured they might sell a few thousand. They sold over 32,000. That spark lit a fire across the industry, and by 1965, everyone from Chevrolet to Dodge was stuffing big blocks into mid-size cars. But Pontiac had the head start, and for years, the GTO stayed one step ahead of the pack. By 1967, the muscle car was in full swing. Every year brought more power, more torque, and wilder options. Pontiac wasn't content with just adding cubes. They started innovating where it mattered. Air. The Ram air systems were designed to do exactly what the name implied. Ram cold air directly into the carburetor for more efficient combustion. More air meant more fuel, and more fuel meant more power. The early Ram Air 1 and 2 setups were decent, but it was the Ram Air 3 and Ram Air 4, introduced in 1969, that turned the GTO from a brute into a certified street weapon. Ram Air 4 was a monster. While it was officially rated at 370 horsepower, insiders knew the numbers were sandbagged to keep insurance agents at bay. With high-flow cylinder heads, an aluminum intake manifold, oversized valves, and aggressive cam profiles, the Ram Air 4 was a factory hot rod in disguise, and in 1970, Pontiac took it to the limit. If 1964 was the birth of the GTO, 1970 was its final roar. The government crackdown was coming, insurance premiums were skyrocketing, emission standards were everywhere. But in the eye of the storm, Pontiac unleashed its most outrageous combination yet. The GTO convertible with the Ram Air 4 engine. Let's get the numbers out of the way first. Only 13 were ever built. That's not a mistake. Of the 37 Ram Air 4 GTO convertibles produced in 1970, 24 were equipped with the 4-speed manual transmission, and 13 had the turbo Hydromatic 400 automatic. This wasn't just a fast car, it was terrifying. Beneath the hood, the Ram Air 4 engine came alive with forged pistons, big valve heads, and an aggressive camshaft that gave it a sloppy, snarling idle. Quarter-mile times in the low 13s weren't uncommon, and with slicks, it could break into the 12s. These weren't factory numbers designed to impress on paper. This was street violence, tuned for the fearless. That's as rare as a Hemi Cuda convertible and the ZL1 Camaro. It was rarer than just about any muscle car you can name. This wasn't just about rarity, though. This car was raw firepower wrapped in drop-top elegance. The GTO Ram Air 4 convertible wasn't meant to exist. It was a statement, a middle finger to subtlety, a celebration of everything the muscle car stood for before the curtain dropped. So what made the Ram Air 4 so dangerous? Start with the engine. A 400 cubic inch V8 with forged pistons, a reinforced block, and round port cylinder heads with enormous valves. Add in a high-lift camshaft, a free-flowing aluminum intake manifold, and a Rochester quadrajet carburetor tuned to inhale air like a jet engine at takeoff. On paper, the car made 370 horsepower and 445 pound-feet of torque. In reality, you were looking at well over 400 horses. Some estimates say closer to 425, and quarter-mile times in the low 13s with slicks. That put it in the same league as the LS6 Chevelle, Boss 429 Mustang, and 426 Hemi Charger. But the GTO had something those others didn't: refinement. Despite its wild heart, the Ram Air 4 convertible came with power steering, rally gauges, and bucket seats. It was equal parts barbarian and boulevard cruiser. Driving a Ram Air 4 GTO wasn't like piloting your average muscle car. The cam was aggressive, the idle was lumpy. Below 3,000 RPM, it felt like it was chewing through pavement grudgingly. But once you stabbed the throttle and let the engine wind past the sweet spot, the whole car transformed. The hood scoops roared, the rear tires clawed for grip, the tachometer screamed toward the red line, and suddenly, the horizon was coming at you faster than you could process. There were faster cars, sure, but few offered that perfect blend of menace and style. Fewer still let you drop the top and let your hair whip in the wind while laying down rubber down the boulevard. The 1970 Ram Air 4 GTO convertible was Detroit's idea of duality. Half street brawler, half sun-soaked cruiser. It could terrify your neighbor or take your date to dinner, sometimes on the same night. So why so few? By 1970, insurance premiums had turned muscle cars into financial suicide. Sales were declining. Buyers were choosing economy over horsepower. Convertibles, in particular, were falling out of favor. Only 3,615 GTO convertibles were built in 1970, which is less than 10% of total GTO production. The Ram Air 4 was a $558 option on top of that. Factor in the extra cost, complexity, and stiff competition from the likes of the LS6 Chevelle and Hemi Cuda, and it becomes clear. Only the truly obsessed ordered a GTO convertible with the Ram Air 4 package. And even then, most opted for the hardtop. Convertibles were seen as heavier, less rigid, and not as suitable for drag racing. They weren't for the quarter-mile crowd. They were for those who wanted something rare, stylish, and terrifyingly fast, like the 1970 GTO Judge Ram Air 4 convertibles with automatic transmissions. Only a few are known to survive today. For example, a 1970 GTO Judge Ram Air 4 convertible sold for $1.1 million at Mecum auctions in 2023. Another is locked in a private collection, untouched for decades. Each of them is a rolling time capsule and a six-figure investment at a minimum. The 1970 Pontiac GTO Ram Air 4 convertible is more than just a rare car. It's a symbol. It represents the moment when Detroit reached for the stars, when engineers prioritized raw performance over regulations, when every gear shift, every roar of the exhaust was a protest against mediocrity. It's the car that dared to exist when everything else said no. In the muscle car hierarchy, rarity matters, performance matters, but soul, that's what separates the greats from the legends. The Ram Air 4 convertible has all three in spades. By 1971, the GTO was on the decline. Compression ratios dropped, emissions rules kicked in, and by 1974, the GTO badge was placed onto the Ventura Compact, an unrecognizable shadow of its former self. But in 1970, Pontiac stood at the top of the mountain, surveyed the competition, and built a convertible so rare, so brutally fast, and so defiantly bold that even half a century later, it still commands silence in the room. The 1970 Pontiac GTO Ram Air 4 Convertible isn't just one of the rarest GTOs ever built. It's the last great warrior of a golden era, a muscle-bound masterpiece, a thunderclap of American horsepower heard around the world. And for the lucky few who've seen one in the flesh, it's unforgettable.